everyone, welcome to our channel Knowledge of Friends. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम लोग रीजनिंग की क्लास करने वाले हैं जो कि assertions and reason. This is the new topic for this class and this is the 18th topic, assertion and reaction. अगर हम रीजनिंग की बात करते हैं तो रीजनिंग में हम 152th क्लास कर रहे हैं, ऑलरेडी 151th क्लास कर चुके हैं एंड बिफोर दैट 18 से हम पहले 17th टॉपिक ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, जिसमें से सबसे पहले हमने एनालॉजी को डिस्कस किया है, फिर उसके बाद क्लासिफिकेशन किया है, देन सीरीज कॉम्प्लीशन, कोडिंग, डिकोडिंग, ब्लड रिलेशन, उसके बाद हमने पजल टेस्ट किया है, देन वी हैड डन सीक्वेंशियल आउटपुट ट्रेसिंग एंड देन वी हैड डन डायरेक्शन सेंस टेस्ट एंड उसके बाद फिर हमने किया है लॉजिकल ओवेन डायग्राम, देन वी हैव डन अल्फाबेट टेस्ट एंड नंबर रैंकिंग टाइम सीक्वेंस टेस्ट एंड देन वी हैड डन मैथमेटिकल ऑपरेशन। उसके बाद हमने लॉजिकल सीक्वेंस ऑफ वर्ड्स किया है, अरिथमेटिक रीजनिंग किया है, इंसर्टिंग द मिसिंग कैरेक्टर किया है एंड देन डेटा सफिशिएंसी डेटा सफिशिएंसी किया है, उसके बाद डेटा डिसीजन मेकिंग किया है और अब जो हम कर रहे हैं असर्शन एंड रीजंस। तो दिस इज द 18th टॉपिक। तो बिल्कुल काउंटेड डाउन लाइक 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 and then 12 13 14 15 16 17 and this is the 18th topic, that is your assertions and reasons here. सो अगर आप हमारे चैनल फर्स्ट टाइम देख रहे हो या अभी तक आपने हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है, इट्स अ ह्यूज रिक्वेस्ट कि आप हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करो सो दैट हम जो भी वीडियोस डालें वो आपके पास सबसे पहले पहुँचे। एंड सेकेंडली, अगर आपको हमारा वीडियो अच्छा लगे तो प्लीज़ हमारे वीडियो को लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब करो। With reference to the assertions and reasons, this is the 18th topic as I told you, and in this what you have to do is the test is meant to judge the candidate's knowledge and with it his ability to reason out correctly. In this test, two statements referred to as assertions and reason respectively are provided. Find five alternative options are of they had been given to the correct one you have to be chosen. Okay, so here for the assumptions that the assertions and reaction they had given you and accordingly you have to perform. And for the assertions A and the reason are below, show the correct alternative from the following here. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so the option A is both A and R are true and R is correct explanation of A. When you are getting A and R both are correct and you are getting that R is the correct explanation of A, then you can mark it as A. And if both A and R are true but R is not the correct explanation of A, then you can mark as B. Where A is true and but R is false, then you marked a C, and A is false and but R is true, then you marked a D, and when both A and R are false, then you marked E here. Okay, with regard of that we will go through it. That is the first question of the session that we have here. In regard of the first question here, the assertion that they had given you, moon cannot be used as a satellite for the communication. This is the assertion they had given you, and the reason what they had given you is moon does not move in the equatorial plane of the earth. So according to this, if I'm talking about, so clearly the answer A is a right answer for this because since R explains the A as well as moon does not move is equatorial plane of the earth, that means that moon cannot be used as satellite for the communication as well. So we'll go with for this we'll go with option A here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number second question of the session, and the assertions we had given here is salt is added to cook food at higher altitude, and the reason they had given you the temperature is lower at higher altitude. With regard of this, clearly the answer is B because both the statement A and R are separately true but R does not explain A, so here we'll go with option B here for the right answer. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number third question that we have is for the assertion here, and the assertion is ventilators are provided near the roof, and that is reason has been given the conductions take place better near the roof here. According to this question, where I'm talking about, so ventilators are provided near the roof and the conductions takes place better near the roof here. So clearly the answer will be the C, since only statement A is true while R is wrong, so wrong statement. So we'll say that the option C will be the right answer for this question as well. So you can just name it out. What I had given you here is as an option, and you can just write it down like this. So moving ahead with another fourth question of the session that we have to discuss here. Fourth question we have is assertion, that is A, denoted by the beriberi is a vital infection. That beriberi is a vital infection, and the reasons what it is: vitamins deficiency causes diseases. And so in this respect to this question, so clearly the answer is D, since the statement A is false and the R is that is true. So we'll go with option D, that will be here. This is berry is a vital infection, and for that sake, if I'm talking about, so this is since the statement A is false and only R is true, so we'll go with option D here. Moving ahead with the fifth question of the session, and that is your assertions and reasons. So assertion is given out here as bulb filament is made up of titanium, and the reason that they had given you, the filament should have a low melting point. And with respect to that, if I'm talking about, clearly the answer would be the A, since both the statements A and R are false here. So we'll go with option E here. So now we'll discussing more further questions, and that is also an important one here. With regard of that, question number 6, that is for assertion A and the reason are below, choose the correct alternative from the following. The options we have is both A and R are true, and R is a correct explanation of A, then you will mark A. If B, both A and R are true but R is not the correct explanation, you will marked B. Explanation of A, so you marked B. And C is A is true but R is false, then you marked C. And if A is false and but R is true, then you marked D. And if both A and R are false, then you marked E here. According to this, we have seventh question of the session, and the question we have is assertions and reasons. So assertion we have is carbon monoxide when inhaled cause death, and reasons, the carbon monoxide combines with the hemoglobin. So this is what they had given you as in the form of the assertions, and as well as for the reason. With regard of this, we have to focus on the assertion as well as the reason, and then accordingly we have to answer those questions particularly as well. So with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so carbon monoxide when inhaled combines with hemoglobin of blood to form the hemoglobin, and which inhibits the transports of oxygen. So yes, we'll go with option A for this, and that option A will be the right answer for this question, as well as that as I told you, both A and R are the true statement, and R is the correct explanation of it, and you marked A here. With regard of this, we'll move ahead with the eighth question of the session, that is the session they had given you, we feel colder on mountains than on plains, and the reason they had given you, the temperature decreases with altitude. So they are higher above the sea level, the temperature decreases at the rate of 1 degree Celsius for every 165 meters of ascent, that is or making mountains peaks colder. So for that sake, yes, we'll go with option A for this also. And for that, we have an option A will be the right answer for this also, because in this that we can say that that both A and R are the true, and R is the correct explanation of A. So we'll go with option A for this also. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 9. Question of the session is, the assertion has been given that is your inside the earth metal are present in a molten state, and the reason they had given you, the earth absorb the sun rays. According to this, inside the earth, the high temperature and the pressure keeps the metals in molten state, and the earth does not absorb the sun rays but reflects them as well. So here, with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so we'll go with option C as well, and that is the option C is A is true but R is false. With regard of this, we'll go with this option C here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 10th question of the session in the assertions and reason here. For the 10th question we have is, the assertion that we have given is there is no vaccines for the AIDS, and the reason they had given you, the AIDS virus changes its genetic code, and according to this, a vaccine contain an inactive awaited germs of the diseases, but the AIDS virus changes its genetic code, and so on vaccine has been invented for it. And for that sake, we'll go with option A, so that A and R will be true, and R explain the A assertion here. And the 11th question of the session, we have assertions A, that is a clothes are not washed properly in hard water, and the reason what they had given you is hard water contain many minerals. In reference to this, if I'm talking about clothes are not washed properly in the hard water because it is not a form lather and with a soap as well as however it is true that hard water contain many minerals. So in regard of this, if I'm talking about, so we'll go with option B, and that will be the right answer here for the question. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 12th question of the session here. And the question we have here, so here we had given the 12th question, that is assertions and reason. Assertion is when in India people elect their own representative, and the reason it's India as a democracy here. So with regard of this, we talk about, so we'll just say that India being a democracy, it is a government run by the representative elected by its people. So here for this we have an option, that is option A will be the right answer for this question, and that will be the right answer here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 13th question of the session here. And the question we have is assertions that they had given you vaccines prevent disease, and the reason is vaccine must be given to the children here. And according to this particular question, if I'm talking about we are talking about vaccines, that vaccine prevent diseases by developing immunity inside the body, and the vaccine insist that must be given to the children to build in them to the resistance against disease. So here we will go with option B, and that was option B will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with our 14th question of the session, and that we have assertions and reasons here. And with reference to the assertion, if I'm talking about downpour of rain that leaves the humidity in the atmosphere, and the reason what they had given you is rains are caused when atmosphere cannot hold more moisture here. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about where the reasons has been given, so according to the downpour of the rain, what they had mentioned you here, rains are caused when the atmosphere in the upper reaches cannot hold more water, and but the downpour of if I'm talking about, so that rains are caused by the atmosphere in the upper reaches cannot hold more water, but the downpour of the rain increases the humidity in the atmosphere near the earth's surfaces. So we'll go ahead with a downpour. If I'm talking about for the downpour here, so we'll go with option D will be the right answer for this question. Moving ahead with a 15th question of the session, that is assertions and the reasons. Assertion is unpolished rice should be eaten, and the reason is polished rice lacks vitamin B. With reference to that, the husk of the unpolished rice contain vitamin B1, deficiency of which causes the disease beriberi. So the rice should be eaten unpolished, and where we'll go with option A, and that will be A and R, that is assertions and reasons both are right, and R is giving explaining the A as well. So moving ahead with 16th question of the session, and the question we have here is the assertions and reason. Assertion is bats can fly in the night, and reason is bats emits ultrasound sonics. So in regard of this, if I'm talking about, so bats can fly in the night because they can trace the obstacles in the path of the perceiving the echo of the ultrasonic sound emits by them, and after it is reflected by the obstacle here. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so in the case of the bats, if I'm talking about, so bats can fly in the night because they can trace the obstacle in the path of the perceiving the echo of the ultrasonic sound emitted by them after is reflected by the obstacles here. So we'll go with here with option A, and that will be the option A will be the right answer for this question, where assertion and reasons both are right, and are that reason explains the assertions here as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 17th question of the session, the assertions and the reasons here. Assertion is that Wazir Sultan was the daughter of Iltutmish, and the reason is Iltutmish was a rebel here. According to this question, if I'm talking about, so Iltutmish was a ruler of the slave dynasty, and the Razia was his daughter. So with reference to that, we will go with option C, and that is option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 18th question of the session that we have is assertion A, and that is reasons are. The assertion के case में that silver is not used to make electric wire, and reason is silver is a bad conductor. So with reference to all these two, the silver is a good conductor of electricity, but it is not used to make electric wire. So because it is expensive as well, as we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 19th question of the session that we have to discuss here. So the 19th question of the session we have is assertion and reasons. Assertion is Gandhiji withdraw the non-cooperative movement, and the reason is there was the violence at the Chauri Chara outrage, and according to this question, the Gandhiji withdraw the non-cooperation movement because of the violence in the Chauri Chara outrage. So we'll go with option A, where both assertion and reason are correct and true, and of course that it explains that reasons explains the assertion as well. And that is the 21st question of the session we have as your assertions and reasons. Assertion has been given that Uttar Pradesh is called the sugar bowl of India, and the reason is given that is Uttar Pradesh is a leading producer of the sugar cane as well. With regard of that, we can say with reference to this we can say that carbon forms the largest numbers of compound carbons that has catenated. Okay, I had not done this. Okay, chari chara wale case mein that chari chara wala mein A option will be the right answer. The 20th question of the session is assertion is carbon forms the largest number of compounds, and reason is carbon has the catenation property, and according to this, carbon forms a very large number of compounds due to the tendency to form that change and rings and varying sizes and call its catenation property. And however, the largest number of compounds are formed by the hydrogen. So here we'll go with D. So here we will go with option D, and that will be the right answer for this question. Moving ahead with a 21st question of the session, that is assertions and reason. Assertion has been given Uttar Pradesh is called the sugar bowl of the India, and reason what they had given is Uttar Pradesh is the leading producer of the sugar cane, and Uttar Pradesh being the leading producer of the sugar cane in India is called the sugar bowl of India. So yes, of course we'll go with option A here, and that is option A will be the right answer, because that A assertion and the reason both are right, and reason explains the assertion as well. So that's the reason why the option A will be the right answer here for the question. Now moving ahead with another question, and that is your 22th question of the session that we have to discuss here. 22th question of the session, that assertions and reason has been given. Assertion A, when the bus starts, the person inside it falls forward, and reasons is the bus pushes the man forward here. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so here the when the bus starts that the person inside it falls forward, and the reason the bus pushes the man forward as well. So here when the bus starts, the person inside it falls backwards, and because the bus moves forward, but due to the property of inertia, the man attempts to be in the initial state of the rest. So here with reference to this, we will go with option E, and that will be the option E will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with 23rd question of the session, that is assertions and reasons. So assertion has been given that a glass tumbler breaks in winter when hot water is poured in it, and the reason is when hot water is poured, the outer surface of the glass expands here, and according to this, when in a winter hot water is poured in the glass tumbler, its inner surface tends to expand, while the outer surface in contact with the cooled surface atmosphere does not, and the opposite interaction causes the tumbler to break, and for that sake we have an option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 24th question of the session here. And the 24th question of the session that we had given assertions and reasons here. Assertion is red color of blood is due to the hemoglobin, and the reasons is hemoglobin is a red pigment here. With regard of this, when we can say that hemoglobin is a blood pigment that imparts a red color to the blood here. So for that sake, we have an option A will be the right answer for this sake. And that is option A will be the right answer here. 25th question of the session is assertions and reasons. So assertion is carbohydrates provide energy to the body. So that carbohydrates provide energy to the body, and the reasons is obesity is caused by the excessive intake of carbohydrate, where in this case the carbohydrates are the source of the energy in the body. However, the obesity is caused by the excessive intake of the fats that accumulate in the body, and that we will go ahead with option C will be the right answer for this question here. So moving ahead with 26th question of the session, that is assertions and reasons here. So assertion has been given nuclear fusion is used to generate the electricity, and the reason what they had given is nuclear power is not used because it cannot be controlled. Or with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so we can say that a nuclear fusion reaction is used to generate the electricity nowadays. Controlled nuclear power finds many important application, and for that sake we have an option A will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 27th question of the session, that is assertions we have is the A, that represent river Narmada flows westward, and the reason is Narmada falls into the Bay of Bengal, and according to this, if I'm talking about, river Narmada flows westward and drains into the Arabian Sea. So here this will be the option C will be the right answer for this question. Moving ahead, 28th question of the session, the assertions and the reasons. The assertion is cotton is grown in the alluvial soil, and alluvial soil are very fertile. With respect to this, if I'm talking about, so alluvial soil comprising of silt and that sand carried down by the rivers are very fertile. However, the cotton is grown into the black soil that suits its minimal mineral requirements, and that will go with option D will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 29th question of the session here. Here with reference to the 29th question of the session, the assertion and reasons. Assertion is in India females have higher life expectancy than the males, and reasons is females receives a better diet. Yeah, with reference to that, in India due to the high birth rate and due to the neglect, so we can say that the females have a lower life expectancy than the males, and although the females need a better diet, they do not receive it. So we'll with reference to that, we will go ahead with option E will be the right answer for this question. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 30th question of the session, and that assertions and reasons here. Assertion is that in the Indian Constitution come into the force with the effects from 26th January 1950, and the reason is 26th January celebrated as the Republic Day. With regard of this, the Indian Constitution came into the force with the effect from the January 26, 1950, and since then this is celebrated as the Republic Day. So with reference to that, we'll go with option B will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 31st question of the session, and the question we have is the assertions and reasons. Assertion has been given appendix is a vestigial organ in human body, and the reason that they had given you, it does not participate in the digestion. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so the appendix earlier used to digest raw vegetable matter is now vestigial organ in the human body and does not perform any further function. So we'll go with option A with the right answer here for the question. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 32th question of the session, that is assertions and reasons here. Assertion has been given that Himalayas once led under the sea, and the reasons that I have given you is fossils of marine creatures are traced on the Himalayas. And with reference to this, if I'm talking about, so the Himalayas are the young fold mountains that at one time are believed to lie inside the Tethys seas, and this is evident from the recovery of the fossils of the marine creatures on the peaks. And so we'll set that the option A will be the right answer for the question here. Moving ahead with another one, that is your 33rd question of the session, and that will be the assertion and the reasons here. And the assertion has been given that Shivaji developed the that is guerrilla warfare, and the reason is being Shivaji feared the Mughals here. And with reference to that, we can say that here that Shivaji initiated the guerrilla warfare and to defeat the Mughals, but he did not fear them. So with reference to that, we can say that the option C will be the right answer for this question as well. So Next question, that is the question number 34th question of the session, and the assertions and the reasons have been given here. With reference to the assertion, that is legumin revive the soil fertility, and the reason is microbes in the roots nodules of legumes affects the atmosphere nitrogen. And with regard of this, the root nodules of leguminous plant contain the certain nitrogen fixing bacteria which absorbs the atmosphere nitrogen and convert it into the nitrogenous compound useful for the plant of receiving the soil fertility. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with the 34th question of the session, and that is assertions and reasons. Assertion that has been given is cut fruits and vegetables should not be kept in open for long, and reason is this: their vitamin content is ruined. So with respect to that, when cut fruits and the vegetables are kept in the open, so the vitamins in it then oxidize with the remain of no use. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this as well. That will be the right answer. Moving ahead with another question, that is just 36th question of the session that we have to discuss here is 36th question of the session, that is assertions and reasons has been given. Assertion is an atom is a neutral despite the charges particle in it, and the reasons has been given that neutrons do not have any charge. With reference to this, we can say that an atom contains a positive charge proton and an equal number of negative charge electron, so it is neutral. However, it is true that neutron in the nucleus of an atom are neutral. So here for this respect to this, we'll go with option B will be the right answer for this question, and that is the right answer here. Moving ahead with the 37th question of the session, that is assertions and reasons here. Assertion is Bangladesh import jute from India, and the reason is Bangladesh has most of the jute mills here. So with reference to this, we have an option here. With regard of this, if I'm talking about the Bangladesh, so when Bangladesh was created after the partition of India, the area of the jute production went to the Bangladesh, while the jute mills were left in India. So basically India imports raw jute from Bangladesh. So we'll have option E will be the right answer, because both the statements are false here. Moving ahead with 38th question of the session, that is assertions and the reasons here. Assertion has been given that steam engine was invented by the James Watt, and reason is there was a problem of taking out water from flooded mines. With reference to this question here, the problem of the pumping out water from the flooded mines provided the need of the self-working engine, which led James Watt to invest the same, and that is we go with option A will be the right answer for this question as well. That is both the statements are true, and the reason has been explained assertion here. Moving ahead with 39th question of the session, and that we have for the assertion and the reasons here. Assertion is increase in the carbon dioxide would melt polar ice. The reason is global temperature would rise. That for that sake, if I'm talking about, so with reference to this, we can say that the carbon dioxide envelopes in the earth's atmosphere, traps the heat. With increase in the proportion of the carbon dioxide, therefore the global temperature would rise, and thus causing the polar ice to melt. And for that sake, we'll go with option A will be the right answer for the sake, and that will be the right answer as well. Moving ahead with the 40th question of the session, and the question we have is the assertion and the reasons here. In the case of the assertion is Tamil Nadu gets most of the rainfall in the winter, and the reasons has been given it. Tamil Nadu gets rainfall from the retreat monsoon. With regard of the Tamil Nadu, if I'm talking about here, the rainfall in the Tamil Nadu is caused by the retreating the monsoon which occurs in the winter. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with the 41st question of the session, and that is also an important question. The 41st question of the session is assertions and the reasons here. So assertion here is graphite is slippery are used as a lubricant, and the reason is graphite has a free electron. With regard of the graphite, so graphite possesses a layers of structure with two successive layers held by the weak forces and able to slide over one another. So the graphite is slippery, and the property finds it to use the lubricant. And in the case of the graphite, we can see that each carbon atom is linked to three other carbon atom, and that atom, while one electron in the carbon atom is delocalized, so the graphite has a free electron as well. So we'll go with option B will be the right answer for this question here. So moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 42th question of the session for this. 42th question of the session is assertions and reasons here. Assertion is, in India, the judiciary is independent of the executive, and the reasons is judiciary favors the government and helps in the implementation of its plan. And with regard of that, in India, if I'm talking about, the judiciary is completely independent of the executive, and it has no interference in the affairs of the state, or nor it can be influenced by the government. So we here will go with option C will be the right answer for this sake here. 43rd question of the session that is we have is assertion and the reason. Assertion has been that an iron ball floats on a mercury but gets immersed in water, and the reason is the specific gravity of the air iron is more than that of the mercury. With reference to that, if I'm talking about, so here in iron with a specific gravity less than that of the mercury but more than that of the water as well, that floats in the former but gets immersed in the seconds as well. So in regard of this, we can say that that option C will be the right answer for the same, and that will be the of course the right answer here. Moving ahead with the 44th question of the session, that is assertions and reasons here. Assertion is, copper is used to make electric wires, and the reason is copper has very low electrical resistance. With regard of this, if I'm talking about so here we can say that a low electrical resistance of the copper makes it a good electric conductor, so it is used to make the electric wire. That is option A will be the right answer for this question, and that option A will be the right answer for this here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 45 question of the session here, and the question is assertions and the reasons. Assertion is, uranium undergo a nuclear fusion reaction, and the reasons here, it has a big unstable and that is we can say that weakless here with nucleus here, stable nucleus, and so that with respect to the uranium, if I'm talking about, so here having a big unstable nucleus, uranium undergo the nuclear fission reaction, and with regard of that, the option D will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with the 46th question of the session, that is assertions and the reasons. Assertion is, a little gap is left between iron rails, and the reason is the iron expands in summer. Regarding with this, if I'm talking about, so the iron expands in the summer, so the gaps are left between the rails to allow for the expansion, and according to that, we have an option A will be the right answer for this question here. Here with the next question, that is the question number 47th question of the session, that is assertions and the reason. Assertion is, when a common salt is kept open, it absorbs moisture from the air, and the reason is common salt contain magnesium chloride, and with regard of that, magnesium chloride present in common salt is a deliquescent substance, that is it absorbs moisture from the air when kept in open, and for that sake we have an option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 48th question of the session, the assertions and the reason. Assertion is being given, when a body is dipped in a liquid fully or partially, there is a decrease in its weight, and the reason is the decrease in the weight is due to the higher density of the displaced liquid. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so with regard of that, we can say that here, like when a body is dipped into liquid, there is a decrease in the weight due to the upward thrust exerted on it by water. So here we have an option C will be the right answer for this question as well. So here we'll move with the next one, and that is your 49th question of the session here. 49th question of the session, that is assertions and the reasons here. Assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. So here the baking soda creates acidity in the stomach, and baking soda is alkaline. Baking soda being alkaline neutralize the acidity in the stomach and removes it. So here we'll go with option D, and that is option D will be the right answer for the case here. So here with reference to that, we have a 50th question of the session, that assertions we have with the denotation A and reason is for R. The most of the Himalayas river are perennial, and that is for the reason they are fed up by melting snow. So most of the Himalayan rivers originating in Himalayas peaks are perennial because they are fed up by the melting snow throughout the year. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this question here as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is a question number 51 at the question of the session. The assertion has been denoted by A and the reason has been denoted by R. So with the assertion here is that amoebiasis is an occupational disease, and reason is amoebiasis is caused by the inhalation of asbestos dust. In regard of this, that amoebiasis is a microbial diseases caused by the that is protozoan, and that is option E will be the right answer for this question, and that is the right answer for this sake. And here moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 52th question of the session, and that is also an important question, and it plays an important role as well. 52th question of the session, they are the assertion that is denoted by A and the reasons denoted by the R. The assertion is plaster of Paris is used by the doctors for setting a fractured bone, and the reason is when a plaster of Paris is mixed with water and applied around the fractured limbs, it sets into the hardness here. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about the plaster of Paris, when mixed with water and applied around the fractured limbs, it sets into the hard mass and keeps the bone joints in a fixed position, and it can be used for setting fractured bones. So here for that sake we have an option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 53rd question of the session, that is assertion and the reasons here. Assertion is the use of the chlorofluorocarbon is banned throughout the world nowadays, and the reason has been given there. These chemicals cause skin cancer as well. So with regard of this, the use of the chlorofluorocarbon is banned nowadays because those cause holes in the ozone layer throughout which the ultraviolet rays penetrates and may cause the skin cancer as well. So here we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 54th question of the session. Assertion that is denoted by A and the reason denoted by R. Assertion is bronze is used for making statues, and bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so bronze is an alloy of the copper and tin, and it is resistant to the corrosion, and so it is used in the make statues. So yeah, we have an option B will be the right answer for this question, and that will be the right answer here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 55th question of the session here. 55th question of the session, that is assertions we have. India is facing the problem of inflation. The reason is we have failed to check the growth of the black money. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, and with that inflammation, if I'm talking inflammation of India, is that cause unrestricted growth of the black money. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer here for the question. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number 56th question of the session, and that is also an important one. Assertions that is denoted by A and the reasons that is denoted by R. So in the case of the assertion, leaves of plants are green, and the reasons the plants contain chloroplast, the green pigment. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so leaves of plants are green because they contain the green pigment chlorophyll. However, plants contain the chloromoplast, and but they are not green pigment. So with respect to that, we have an option C will be the right answer here for this question. Moving ahead with 57th question of the session, the assertions are denoted by A and reason denoted by R. Assertion is we prefer to wear a white clothes in winter, and a reason is white clothes are a good reflector of heat. So with reference to this, we prefer to the dark clothes in the winter because they absorbs the heat and keeps the body warm. However, the white clothes are good reflector of heat and they worn in summer. So basically the option D will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is the question number 58th question of the session. The assertion is denoted by A and the reasons is denoted by R. Assertion is leakage is houseful gas cylinder can be detected, and LPG has a strong smell here. So where in this case leakage in the household gas cylinder can be detected because of the strong smell of the ethyl mercaptan mixed with LPG here. So we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question here. According to that, you have to see the similarities and dissimilarities between those, and you can just answer those questions regardingly. We'll go with 59th question of the session. The assertions is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. And with reference to the assertion that Shimla is colder than Delhi, and reason is Shimla is at higher altitude as compared to the Delhi. And according to this, if I'm talking about, so Shimla is colder than Delhi because it is situated at the higher altitude, and temperature decreased by the 1 degree for every 165 meters of ascent. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 68th question of the session, that is assertion A and the reason are. Assertion is a land breezes blows during night and land gets heated up quickly, and according to that, land gets heated up quickly and also cools quicker than sea at night. So that the cool winds called the land breeze blow from land to sea. So here we'll go with option B will be the right answer for the question. The next question, we have 61th question of the session, and that is assertions A and a reason R. So with a reference to the assertion, the freezing of sea water during the winter does not kill the fishes, and the reason is only surface water is freezes. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so land gets heat in this land gets heated up quickly and also cools quicker than the sea at night, so that the cools wind that called land breeze and blows from the land to sea as well. But in if I'm talking about the for that sake, so here the for the freezing of water, well, I'm talking about in winter only the surface of the surface water of the sea freezes, but before the below water does not freezes, because the surface ice provides an insulating coat. And here for that sake we have an option A will be the right answer for this question. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 62th question of the session, and the question we have is assertion, that is denoted by R, sorry A, and that is the reason for the R. Assertion is we feel comfortable in a hot humid climate, and the reason is sweet evaporation faster in that sweat evaporation faster in the humid climate. So with regard of that, we can say that we feel uncomfortable in hot and humid climate because it's hot weather. Body sweats more, but due to the high humidity, this sweat does not evaporate easily. And so with respect to that, we'll go with option E, and that is option E will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number 63rd question of the session that we have to discuss here. 63rd question of the session that we have to discuss here, and that is the assertion we have is that Muhammad bin Tughlaq is called the wisest, that is wisest fool, and the reason is he had a wise plans but implemented them foolishly. So with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so that yeah, you can say that that R provides the reason for the correct explanation of A, so where we can go ahead with option A will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 64th question of the session, that is assertion A and the reason are. Assertion A is weeds should not be allowed to grow along with the crops, and the reason is weeds leave no space for plants to grow, and in regard of that, weeds should not be allowed to grow along with the crops because here they consume the plant nutrition. So with respect to that, option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is the 65th question of the session. The assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. Assertion is carbon dioxide turns lime water milky, and reason is carbon dioxide sublimes the water. And with regard of this, the carbon dioxide reacts with the lime water, that is calcium hydroxide, to form the milky precipitate of the calcium carbonate. So we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that this is the C. Okay, so C will be the right answer. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 66th question of the session here. The question we have is assertions. This is denoted by A, and the reason this is denoted by R. The assertion is diamond is used for cutting glass, and a reason is diamond has a high refractive index. In regard of this, if I'm talking about, the diamond is a very hard due to the rigid three-dimensional structures, and so it is used for cutting glasses. So here a refractive index of the diamond is high and gives it in a greater transparency and the brilliance. So with regard of that, we'll go with option B, and that is option B will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 67th question of the session, the question we have is assertion that is denoted by A and the reason that is denoted by R. Assertion is telephone wires sag more as in summer, and reason is they expand due to the summer heat here. With regard of this, yes, the metals of the telephone wires expand in the summer and wires becomes looses, so they sag. So the option A will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 68th question of the session. The assertion is denoted by and there is a reason is denoted by R. The assertion is that is your Eskimos reside in igloo, and that is reason is no other material except snow is available. With regard of this, the Eskimos live in the snow houses called igloos because snow being a bad conductor of heat, these houses are warm inside. So we'll say that option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 69th question of the session, and that is the assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. With regard of assertion, India is a democratic country, and the reason, India has a constitution of its own here. So here that with reference to this, so we have India is a democratic country because it is that is a government and is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. It is also true that the India has its own constitution as well. So we'll go with option B will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, that is the question number 70th question of the session, that we have assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. So assertion is a pressure cooker are fitted with a ebonite handle, and the reason is ebonite is strong. In reference to that, the handles of the pressure cookers are made of ebonite because it is being a bad conductor of heat, does not heat up. So we'll go with option C with the right answer for this question here as well. Moving ahead with another question, that is the question number 71th question of the session here. 71th question of the session is assertions that is denoted by A and the reason this is denoted by R. Water kept in the earthen pots gets cooled in summer, and the reasons is evaporation causes cooling. With reference to that, the earthen pots have a pores through which water evaporates, causing cooling here. With regard of that, we have an option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is 72th question of the session, that assertion is denoted by A and the R reason is denoted by R. The assertion is safety fuses are made up of the materials having a high melting point, and the reason is being given that safety fuses should be resistant to the electric current here. With regard of this, if I'm talking about that, safety fuses are made up of the materials having a low melting point, so that when the excess current flows through the circuit, the fuse melts, breaking the circuit, and thus prevents appliances. And with reference to that, we have an option E will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number 78, third question of the session here, that is assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R here, and that is Pluto is the coldest planet, and the reason is it receives slanting rays of the sun here. With regard of this, Pluto being a farthest from the sun, so hardly gets the sun rays, so the Pluto is the coldest planet. So we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question here. 74th question of the session that we have is the assertion is denoted by A in the upper course. The main work of the river is erosion, and here the reasons is the river flows swiftly in the upper courses, and with reference to this, if I'm talking about in the upper courses, the river rushes down to a steep slope, and so flows swiftly and causing mainly erosion in the region. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is the 75th question of the session here, and that assertion is denoted by regard of the assertion, if I'm talking about this, is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by the R here. So here we go ahead with another question, that is your 75th question of the session. The assertions is represented by A, reason is represented by R. The assertion is most of the ancient civilization grew near the river, and the reason is being given that the main occupation of a man was agriculture. So with regard of this, if I'm talking about most the ancient civilization grew near the rivers because of the fertile land and the availability of the water necessary for the agriculture, the main occupation of man. And with regard of that, we have an option B will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number 76 question of the session, and the assertion is represented by A, and the reason is represented by R here. So the assertion is Buddha left home after his marriage, and the reason is he wished to be free of all worldly ties and become an ascetic here. With regard of that, Buddha left home even after his marriage because he wished to free him of all the worldly ties and become an ascetic here. So with respect to that, we have an option A will be the right answer for this question here as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 77th question of the session, and the question we have is assertion is denoted by A, and reason is denoted by R. The assertion is food material should not be snaked in water for a long time, and reason R is that is washing leads to loss of the vitamin A and the vitamin D from the food stuff, and that is a food material should not be snaked in water for long, since washing leads to loss of water soluble and vitamin B and C as well. So we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 78th question of the session that we have to discuss here. So here with 78%, that is assertions A and reasons are. So assertion is earthworms are not good in for the agriculture, and the R is earthworm break down the soil into the fine particles, make it up soft, and with respect to that, earthworm helps in agriculture because they make the soil soft and porous as well. So we'll go with option D with the right answer here for the question. Moving ahead with 79th question of the session, and that will be your here 79th question of the session, that is assertions here, and that is denoted by A, and the reason is denoted by R. So for the assertion here, that is DDT has nowadays lost its use as insecticides, and the reason is DDT is harmful to man here. With regard of that, DDT has lost its use as an insecticide, and because these insects have a developed immunity against it. However, it is true that DDT is harmful to a man here. With regard of that, we can say that option B will be the right answer for this question. Moving ahead with 80th question of the session, that is assertion is denoted by A, and the reason is denoted by R. The assertion is seed should be treated with fungicides before being sown, and the reason R is seeds does not germinate under the treated with the fungicide solution here. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so seeds are treated with fungicides before sowing to avoid seed borne disease, and however the seeds may germinate even if not treated with a fungicide solution as well. So we'll go with option C will be the right answer for the question here. The 21st question of the session, that is assertion A, and the reasons are. Assertion A is the body of the fish is streamlined, and the reason is the streamlined body helps to fish to cut its way through the water. And with reference to this, if I'm talking about, so here the fish possesses a streamlined body which helps it to cut it way through the water as well. So the where view option A will be the right answer for the question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 82th question of the session. The assertion A is milk production in India is low or compared to the other countries of the world, and the reason is the animal rearers in India are poor. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so milk production in India is low as compared to the other countries of the world because of lack of a good breed and improper feed. However, R is untrue. So with regard of that, we'll go with option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is the question number 83rd question of the session. The question is assertion A, that states that sprouting should not be done before consecutive the grains, that the reasons has been sprouting kills many vital vitamins here. with regard of that, sprouted grains should be consumed because sprouting enhance the nutrition contents of the grain, and so we'll say that we'll go with option E will be the right answer for this question here as well. And we'll go with 84th question of the session here. 84th question of the session, that is, the assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. So 84th is goiter is a common disease in the mountainous region, and that is option our reason is the diet of the people as mountain lacks in iodine content. So with respect to that, the roughage adds a bulk of the food. No, the goiter is commonly caused in the mountainous region, and because goiter is caused by the deficiency of the iodine, and a diet is that is mountainous areas lacks iodine here. So we'll go with option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is the question number 85th question of the session, that is the assertion has been given A, and that is roughage prevents constipations, and the reason is roughage aids a bulk to the food, and roughage adds a bulk to the food and makes its passage through the stomach easier, thus the preventing constipation, and that is option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another one, and that is your 86th question of the session here, and that is also an important place and important roles as well. And the assertion is India has an tropical monsoon type climate, and the reason is that is India is located exactly between the tropical latitudes, and with reference to that, we have an option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 87th question of the session, that assertion is denoted by A and the reason is denoted by R. Assertion states that Africa has one of the largest water power potential in the world, and the reason is a large number of the hydel power projects have been constructed in Africa. With regard of that, we have an option C will be the right answer for this question here as well. 88th question of the session, assertion A, that is Aurangzeb failed in his Deccan policy, and the reason is he could not follow the policy of the appeasement. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, the option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with 89th question of the session, and that we have is assertion, that is A, and reason is R, denoted by R, and the assertion is for the production of the aluminium cheap electricity is essential, and for the reason the extraction of the aluminium from its ore requires abundant supply of the electricity here. So where in this regard of this question, we have an option A will be the right answer for the sake of the right answer here. We'll move ahead with another question, and that we will be answering the question with regard of this here. Options, we'll start with the question number 90 here, the assertion A, and this is the reason R. So assertion is Mercury is the farthest planet from the sun, and the reason is Mercury is the smallest planet in the entire solar system. With regard of this, the option D will be the right answer for the question here. Moving ahead with 91st question of the session, and the question is assertion, that is denoted by A, and the reason that is denoted by R. The assertion is Ashoka pillars have retained their glass on their surfaces, and the moistures laden winds do not blow the area where it is located. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, the option C will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with the 92nd question of the session, and that is assertion A, and the reason R, and the assertion is photosynthesis takes place in all the green plants, and the reasons is chlorophyll is essential for the photosynthesis. And for this respect to this question, if I'm talking about, so here we have an option that will be the B, and that is B option will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number 93rd question of the session, the assertion is A, and the reason is denoted by R here. Assertion is Buddha preached four noble truths, and the reason is he wanted to remove desire, which is the cause of the human sorrow and misery. And according to this, if I'm talking about, so here we have an option A would be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 94th question of the session. The assertion is A, and the reason is R. Assertion is Akbar founded Deen-e-Ilahi, and the reason is he was he was motivated by the self glorification. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, So here, with regard of this, if I'm talking about the question, that what will be the answer, and that is option C will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and that is the question number 95th question of the session. The assertions A and the reason are, that is Indian Forest Services is one of all Indian services, and as well as for the reason only three services are all Indian services. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so the option C will be the right answer for this question here. Now moving ahead with another question, that is the 96th question of the session here. Here we can see that 96th question, the assertion A and the reasons are that on the equivalence of the day and the night equal all over the globe, and the reason is on the equivalence the positions of the earth with respect to the sun in such that neither pole is inclined towards the sun. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, the answer will be the option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 97th question of the session, and that is the assertions are deflected to their right in a northern hemisphere, and as well as that reasons we have is hemispheres, and to the left of the southern hemisphere, and the rotations of the earth cause the change in the wind direction. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so yes, we have an option A will be the right answer for this question here. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number that is your 100th question, 98th question of the session, that is assertion red green color blindness occurs with more frequency in males than in females, and the reason is females have two chromosomes, and males have one. So with regard of this, if I'm talking about the option that will be the right answer, that is option A will be the right answer for this question here as well. Moving ahead with another question, that is 99th question of the session, that assertion is A, that is noise pollution is an unwanted accumulation of the noise in the atmosphere, and the reason is it is interference with the communication. And with regard of this, if I'm talking about, so the here so we have an option that is your option A will be the right answer for this question as well. And for that sake, we have an option that will be the option A will be the right answer here for the question here. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number that is your assertion, that is your forest cutting. Assertion is forest cutting, that is 100th question. Forest cutting is undesirable from the point of view of soil erosion, and the reasons is cutting of the forest reduces the encapsulation of rain or water, that what they had told you here. And with regard of that, the option A will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, that is your question number 101th question of the session, and that is the assertions we have here is your Indus Valley people knew the art of the navigation, and the reason is Indus Valley seals indicate prevalences of the overseas trade here. And with regard of this, we'll just go ahead with the question, and that will be the option A will be the right answer for this also. Moving ahead with another question, and that is your question number 102th question of the session here. And with regard of this, the assertion is the western coast of the India is characterized by the location of the several seaports, and the reasons we have is western coast of that has been evidence of the deep sea water. And with regard of this, अगर हम बात करते हैं, so yes, we have an option that will be the option A will be the right answer for this question as well. Moving ahead with another question, and the last question of the session as well, that is your 103rd question of the session. And the question we have is the assertion A, that is a person with a blood type O is considered to the universal recipient, and reasons the type O blood does not contain any antigens. With regard of this, if I'm talking about, so yes, of course, we have an answer that will be the D option will be the right answer for this question. As I told you, this is the last question, and we had completed your assertions and reasons chapters also, that is 18th topic in this class only, and that is also an important one. You can just gone through with that. If you had not subscribed to our channel, you can just go to the subscribe button, and you can just click on the subscribe, and you can just like, share and subscribe our channel. With regard of that, as I told you, the reasoning के बारे में जैसा कि मैंने आपको बताया था, तो रीजनिंग में ऑलरेडी हमने बताया था आपको कि रीजनिंग दो पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड है. पहला वर्बल एंड नॉन वर्बल रीजनिंग में. वर्बल रीजनिंग भी जो है वो दो पार्ट्स में डिवाइडेड है, जनरल मेंटल एबिलिटी एंड द लॉजिक रीजनिंग. जनरल मेंटल एबिलिटी में भी ऑलरेडी आज के क्लास की अगर हम काउंट करते हैं तो हमने 18 टॉपिक कवर अप कर लिया है, लास्ट 2 टॉपिक्स बचे, उसके बाद फिर हम सेक्शन 1 जनरल मेंटल एबिलिटी कंप्लीट कर लेंगे। विद रेफरेंस टू द जनरल मेंटल एबिलिटी हमने एनालॉजी, क्लासिफिकेशन, सीरीज कॉम्प्लीशन, कोडिंग, डिकोडिंग, ब्लड रिलेशन, पजल टेस्ट, sequential output tracing, then direction search test, logical Venn diagram, alphabet test, number ranking and time sequence test, mathematical operation, logical sequence of words, arithmetic reasoning, inserting the missing character, data sufficiency, decision making, assertion and reaction that we had done here. With regard of that, we'll start discussing the situation reaction test, verification of the truth of the statement. Then after that, we'll start with section 2, that is logic reasoning, and that is logic, statement argument, statement assumption, statement cause of action, statement conclusion, deriving the conclusion from with passages, theme detection, question statements, and of course the miscellaneous logical puzzle. Then after that we'll start discussing non-verbal reasoning, and non-verbal reasoning में हमारे पास जो है topics, that is your series, analogy, classification, analytical reasoning, mirror image, water image, embedded figures, completions of incomplete patterns, figure matrix, paper folding, paper cutting, rule detection, grouping of identical figures and cubes and dies, and then we have your dot situations, constructions of squares and triangles, figure that is your construction of squares and triangles, and then we have a figure formations and analysis, and then practice question paper. That's what we have to discuss in this coming next classes. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अगर आप इट्स अ ह्यूज रिक्वेस्ट कि अगर आप हमारे चैनल फर्स्ट टाइम देख रहे हो या अभी तक आपने हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है, इट्स अ ह्यूज रिक्वेस्ट कि प्लीज़ हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करो, लाइक करो, शेयर करो, सो दैट ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग के पास वीडियो पहुँचे और ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग इसका यूटिलाइजेशन भी कर सके, एंड इवन दो यू कैन ऑल्सो यूटिलाइज दोज वीडियोज़, एंड विल बी अपलोडिंग इन द नेक्स्ट कमिंग क्लास द 19th topic here, and that will discuss with reference to the situation reaction test, and that is also an important topic here. Hopefully we'll complete in this the next class, coming class only, that 90 topic will end up with that. Thank you.